it's Huang with Hand Therapy Secrets. Welcome to my show. This show is all about helping to inspire you as occupational therapists, physical therapists, all wanting to specialize in hand therapy and eventually one day becoming a certified hand therapist. Besides inspiration, I also want to share with you skills, techniques that you can use right away in your practice. So I'm really excited today to introduce to you Debby Schwartz. She definitely, in my book, is a Splinting Guru. She makes making orthoses so fast, so easy. I'm really excited to share her story with her journey in hand therapy and how she started to work for Orfit. I'm going to include all her links so that if you don't know who she is, you should get to know her because she's really amazing and she's got so much to share, which is something that I really love. Besides that, she's going to show you how to make a custom fitted orthosis. Now, if you are an occupational therapist or physical therapist and you're just starting out and you want to learn how to make custom fitted orthoses, as well as Debbie does, well, I've got Orthosis 101 and I'm going to include that link for you as well. And we're going to be running a special during this week in October. But that link is going to tell you a lot more, and I teach you step-by-step instructions on how to make two really key orthoses that once you learn how to make those, you'll learn how to make so many others. It really opens the doorway to being able to make so many other orthoses. And on top of that, not only do you get step-by-step instructions, but you're also going to get a package of all the tools that you need to get your practice on, okay? So click on that link, it's Orthosis 101, and find out the special that we're currently running. Enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome to Huang's show. My name is Huang and this is Debbie. Debbie is from Orfit and I'm so excited to have her on our show today. Debbie is a seasoned certified hand therapist as well as the splinting or orthosis guru. And I'm excited to have her here to not only inspire you, because really when it comes to being able to create custom fitted orthoses, it does take practice. It takes years of practice. I want her not only to inspire you to want to do it, but she's going to show us some of her tips and tricks as well. So welcome, Debbie. Thank you so much for coming on to my show.
Thank you so much for inviting me to participate. It's wonderful. I'm happy to share tips and tricks. I've been doing it for a while, and so just happy to be here. Thank you. I've been working for Orfit for nearly 13 and a half years already.
That's awesome.
And that comes after probably 22 years in the clinic in a variety of different hand therapy clinics. So I have extensive background in hand therapy.
Perfect.
Hospital-based hand clinics, outpatient.
So tell everyone a little bit, how did you get, so I get a lot of new grads that come in and they're always want to know, how do you get into hand therapy? What inspired you to get into hand therapy, or how did you kind of get into hand therapy?
Well, I remember not knowing too much about hand therapy when I became an OT. In OT school, my focus is going to be on geriatric care. That's actually what I was motivated for. But in that first cadaver lab, when we got to dissection of the hand, we dissected a full body, and I was just fascinated by the anatomy of the hand. And knowing that, I found out that you could become a hand therapist and just know that detail of every single anatomical structure in the arm, and that just got me right there. I said, that's what I want to do. So out of school, during school, I went to Downstate Medical School in Brooklyn. It's out of SUNY, State University of New York, and they had, I did a third fellowship, internship in hands in the city, in New York City, and became hooked. And so just looked for a job that would hire somebody who wanted to become involved in hand therapy. I had we were living in Silver Spring, Maryland at the time. I found somebody in Virginia, so I was commuting a little bit, but so I just started a career with somebody who was willing to train. And I think finding someone who's willing to train the new grad and mentor is the key. You need to find somebody who's interested in taking you under their wing and sharing with you. And I wouldn't put it past people to go out of your way to look for jobs that require that CHT, because sometimes they're not going to find the certified hand therapist that they want, and so they're willing to train people who share an
Debbie,
interest.
don't say that. I am currently looking for a certified hand therapist. I
I
want to.
encourage I encourage people who want to get into hands to look for positions, and if they're only willing to accept a CHT, you still should apply, because
Yeah,
if you
I'm kidding.
yeah, I know, but how many? There's not, CHT. You can become after you get that experience.
Yeah, you're not. And I normally encourage people. So I have a program, it's called the Hand Exam Prep Program, and it's to help people to pass the certified hand therapy exam, because I do believe that we need more people who want to and are encouraged to study for it, because it really does help you become a better clinician. First, they have to get the job, but I think the most important thing is it is about exactly what you're saying, Debbie, about like looking for the job that's willing to mentor you and hire you. I think in this day and age, it's sometimes you have to do a paid program. But I think the biggest thing I bet for you was that you were also doing things to ready yourself to get into that position. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, obviously I had taken a hand therapy fellowship, so that I had experience, and I
Right.
remember it as being very difficult and demanding at the time, and thinking,
Yeah.
well, this. But once you get through that, you have that background, and so.
Right. You took the necessary, and I think that's the biggest thing is that you took the necessary steps. You did the hard thing, which
Right,
was
but let me point out that
fellowship.
the first two jobs that I had, both of them were in hand therapy clinics, but I was not certified because the certification was just beginning, and very few therapists at that time were taking an exam. It was more, at the time, it was that you had to apply and have somebody to vet you, and you had to present case histories. So it was a much more complicated process to become a certified hand therapist. And so it wasn't on the agenda of people who were hiring. They were looking for people who were interested. And then at one of my first jobs, I said to myself, within 5 years, I am going to take the exam. They had just introduced the exam, and I said, within 5 years, I'm going to do it. And I was able, because of where I was working and the extraordinary caseload we saw. I was in Buffalo, New York, at the Hand Center of Western New York. We saw so many different cases that within 4 years I was able to sit for the exam and pass it. So you just have to set yourself a goal.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So I don't know what number you are, but when I was a student, this is over 20 years ago as well. And I went to North Carolina to do an internship. And I was able to, in my internship, I was doing mental health at that time, but I was in that Chapel Hill area, and I wanted to go to the Duke's Burn Center because burns was something I was really interested in. And I met a woman, I don't know her last name. I remember her name being Sylvia. And I remember that she said that she was the number 3 certified hand therapist. Do you know a Sylvia?
No, I'm not that. That was before me.
And
Yeah.
so, but
So
I
the
remember,
exam started, I think, in 91. I took it in
right.
like
Yeah.
97 or 98.
Okay, so she was ahead of you a little bit, but she was one of the founding people. Like, honestly, I always remember her first name, but I didn't, and I remember her story. A certified hand therapist, and then she had the number 3. And I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly.
That's so funny.
If you're out there and if someone knows Sylvia, please tell her I remember her. And she inspired me.
Yeah, I think we all were inspired by somebody in our mentorship. I know when I did that field work, I was inspired by the group of therapists I worked with.
Yeah,
And so, you help people, you teach whatever you know, you should pass on. You should
absolutely.
learn something and then pass it on. Number one, when you teach, it helps you cement that knowledge in your own mind, but then you're helping the next generation. I think it's
Yeah,
really critical that we train therapists. So
yeah.
awards to you for creating these therapy programs, because
Um,
it's critical, because we're not going to
yeah,
be doing this forever, and we have a
yeah,
lot to share.
yeah. There is a ton. The more and more people learn about it and do it. I was just on the phone with an OT who has
like tons of OT experience, but she's now diving a lot more into hand due to an opportunity that she's been given. And she's like, you know, they initially kind of hired her for like some shoulder, you know, to help shoulder and arm issues. But now, because she's an OT and she's there and she's willing to learn, she just joined them. She's just joined the mentorship program. And she was like, I didn't realize how big it is. And I think that people do tend to forget. I mean, it's everything. It's not just hands. Like we say we're certified hand therapists, right? But we have to know hands, wrists, elbows, shoulder, nerves, neck. I mean, like
But
all.
also all those critical skills about working with patients and being their mentor and being their
Yes.
coach and being their
Yes.
advisor, being their psychiatrist and
Yes. All of that.
their family. It's everything.
Yes, it's everything. And
Yeah.
it's really hugely embedded into my programs, the communication aspect, because I think it's a huge part that really gets missed. You can take classes, but it's my mentorship program is really about applying that knowledge that you have. So you can come in, you can learn those things, but then really at the end of the day, when you're sitting in those calls with me, it's really about applying what you know. And there's tons of body mechanics. I teach greatly on how to protect yourself and how to treat yourself, because as therapists, sometimes we get hurt. And then if we don't know how to help ourselves, it gets stuck in our brain that it's not possible. And then we kind of pass that along, even though we don't mean to, you know, but it's possible to help people. It's possible for people to live in pain. Some people for sure need surgery, right? But there's so many different cases where we don't need surgery. You can actually improve your life, improve your activity level and stuff like that without.
And a lot of that can be done with orthoses.
Thank you very much. I love orthosis. That is what I am. I talk about that all the time. It is a fundamental skill that as an occupational therapist you should have. Did you notice I said occupational therapist? I did not say hand therapist, because I think it's a skill that you should have no matter what setting, because you can recommend it, you can make it, you can support other people into making it. So how did you kind of move into you became like, when I first met you, it was I think it was when you first started with Orfit, and you came to one of the HT forums down here, and I was like, man, she is a splinting guru.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that compliment.
And then I was like, oh my God, she's got the perfect job. Teaches people make splints all day.
Yeah,
the splinting guru. People want to know.
It's worked out really well for me. I was at a point in my career where I had been doing a lot of presentations. I was giving a lot of talks on different aspects of hand therapy, and this really unique opportunity came my way to travel to Venezuela for their annual Venezuelan Society of Hand Therapy. They had an annual meeting, and they invited several speakers from outside of Venezuela. I didn't even speak Spanish, but they had translators. I gave like a week's worth of talks and on everything with hand therapy. And one of the talks that I had prepared was on splinting. And I didn't know how that was going to work out. I was going to a foreign country. They said, you're going to do a splinting workshop. So I contacted Orfit Industries because I knew they were an international distributor. And I asked if they had a contact in Venezuela and if they would send samples that I could use for the workshop. And they didn't have at the time somebody in Venezuela, but they sent over the samples for me to use in the workshop.
So awesome.
And honestly, that was the highlight of that week. I was in a foreign country. I was having so much fun traveling, but in addition, teaching splinting was it was a blast. I just realized that I really enjoyed it. So when I came home, I have to credit my husband. He's been a big inspiration. So he said, you need to write them a thank you letter. And by the way, why don't you just offer to work for them? So in my thank you note, you should always write a thank you note, thanking them for the samples. I added a job proposal, and I thought maybe they would hire me for a workshop here or there. That's what I was prepared to do because I had a job, but they sent back a full-time offer. And so, you know,
Wow.
how could I not accept it? So I did, and basically I created the position in the United States. It was Orfit is based in Belgium. And at the time, I was fortunate enough to overlap a little tiny bit with Paul Van Lied, who is the inspiration for all the different thermoplastic materials from Orfit. He's the one who helped create and design every single aspect of their
Really?
line. Yeah, and so I
That's
overlapped with
amazing.
him maybe a year or two before he retired.
Right,
They
right.
hadn't hired anybody in the US, and so I've been driving physical rehabilitation products in the United States. We don't sell direct, we sell through distributors. So,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that aspect I don't have to deal with, but I have been doing in-services and workshops and representing Orfit at the different conferences. So I've been traveling a lot, and I do love to travel. And so the job at Orfit has allowed me to travel to quite a few different countries as well. So
Yeah.
I got that international travel bug. Yeah, so I've traveled quite a bit, and
That's incredible.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And number one, ASHT has a virtual meeting, and I will be exhibiting there in our virtual booth. We're designing it as we speak. But if I just want to add that because of what's going on in our country, I've had the opportunity to create virtual webinars, and we ran a series of 10 from March through June. Excellent webinars for virtual learning. What we did now is we're taking them and we're transferring them to a virtual platform. So everybody will be able to sign up for these virtual online courses at any time. Actually, what I'm most proud of is that the content will be free. But if you need a certificate, there will be a registration fee because we are an accredited, approved provider. So for certificates, there will be a registration fee, but otherwise the content for all the courses will be accessible to everybody. And I'm very proud of that. So we're working on a couple courses that's hopefully going to be launched right before ASHT, which is October 1st. So
That's
coming
awesome.
up very, very soon.
Very soon. And I'm going to provide all the links in the description so everyone can find your webinars and videos. It always surprises me that people don't know who you are. I'm like, like everyone.
That's okay. Not everybody knows me, but I am available for in-services. I've been doing in-services by Zoom for large groups of therapists all over the country. And I just want to say I find this really cool because I can do so 1 week I visited Alaska, Houston, North Carolina, Florida, and California all in the same week.
That's
so
awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
Well, you're gonna be in mine. I'm in Miami, but we've got people from everywhere in my hand therapy mentorship program, and
so
people from East Coast, West Coast. We've got people from Canada in there. So everyone's gonna learn more about your product. And this video goes to anyone who's subscribed to Hand Therapy Secrets on YouTube. I've got tons of people on my email list. I've got people from all different continents, Africa, Europe, the Middle East. I'm doing a talk in Brazil actually this weekend. So
that's awesome. That's great. Yeah,
I'm trying to be like you, Debbie.
Here you are. I'm doing a webinar for South Africa in 2 weeks. They're on a completely different time zone.
Yes, I know. That's been the challenging part, I think,
right.
of the program, because currently I only offer one time zone, and people want to do the live portion, which is the whole key of it. It's just like and setting a set time, schedule, date, time to show up, to learn, to apply your knowledge, that kind of stuff. But I'm definitely sharing your information before the Hand Therapy Society meeting. And then of course, I'm doing a course too. It's called Orthosis 101. And the great thing about this is it's step-by-step instructions on 2 major splints that I think, and it includes different materials, but one of them is Orfit.
Oh, that's great. That's great. If you need a visiting instructor,
yes, I do.
if you need a visiting instructor, I'm happy to accommodate you. I did a couple of virtual webinars already with some different groups, and they worked out really well. But I'd love to share some information on orthotic fabrication if you want me to share my.
Oh my
I'll
God,
share.
I would love to.
So,
One thing about Orthosis 101 is not only do you get the videos, but I send you the package with the materials.
oh, very cool.
Like it comes with straps, stockinette, scissors, splinting scissors that I like, it's key sharp scissors that
Right.
only cut splinting material with, thermoplastic material with, so it stays sharp. And my running joke, they're like instant noodles, just add hot water.
So let me share my camera and show you some stuff.
So perfect. I'm so glad that you're sharing, because I can honestly tell you, Debbie, when I first met you, you were showing off Orfit casts.
Yeah. So
maybe after a few visits, but can I tell you that I was not a huge fan?
Well, there are some tricks to working with the Orfit cast, and so I just wanted to highlight the older box, and then we have a new design. This is our 1-inch Orfit cast, and it's really threads of thermoplastic material, and it does take a little bit of a learning curve to learn how to work with them. But I just wanted to share with you some of the different ideas, and then I want to share with you a newer product. So out of the Orfit cast, the original product, Orfit cast, comes in 1 inch and a wider 2.5-inch width. It has a very quick activation time, very quick working time because of the thread content. So it's not sheet material, it's actually threads that are knitted together with nylon. Is
the 2-inch thicker?
No, these are both Orfit cast. I'll introduce the thicker product in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we have, and this comes in blue and in black, and the wider version of Orfit cast comes also in orange. And I just wanted to share, you can make a single finger wrap orthosis, a mallet, trigger finger, anti-swan neck, thumb subluxation, buddy tapes, and you can bivalve your finger wrap to make it so it has straps. And then this is a really cool creation for a stiff finger, a little static progressive finger cuff.
Okay, perfect, yeah.
Finger cuff. So we have a lot of videos on YouTube already posted. Orfit, if you go to YouTube and just type in Orfit or Orfit cast, you can find directions for some of these, and a lot of these will be featured in my upcoming webinars. But I'm just going to move these for a second, and I have a splint pan right here too, so I am going to show a demonstration. We do have the new Orfit cast more, and this is the thicker version.
Yes.
Much thicker.
Yes, much thicker.
Many more threads, so that's what gives it its rigidity. This comes in 2.5 inch, so the same as the previous, but Orfit cast more. The name is more. 5 inch wide, 6 inch wide, and we actually have a brand new product called Orfit cast more, and it's 15 inch wide, and so you can actually make an elbow orthosis out of it. Lightweight, not rigid, but definitely something that would be comfortable for somebody who just needs a place to put their arm.
Why would they pick this over the other Orfit material?
Well, the idea behind all of the Orfit cast and Orfit cast more products is ease of use, quickness of use, and lightweight and comfort. So the idea is, I know you're teaching pattern, and I definitely think that everybody should learn about pattern making first before attempting these ideas, because these are going to speed up the process and eliminate that step of pattern making.
Right.
So I'm just going to show some ideas of what you can do with this, and then I'm going to demonstrate a thumb orthosis. But you can make a hand-based metacarpal fracture brace, a long opponents, a wrist cock-up. This is very fun because it's 2 layers of the Orfit cast more, just positioned where you need the rigidity, but you don't need rigidity on the sides. So this is all very quick. This is a long ulnar gutter for if you needed the wrist included, and a little thumb orthosis. So I was going to demonstrate how to make a quick and easy thumb orthosis for a CMC, CMC joint.
Perfect. So it's funny because I love I used to not like Orfit cast, but I love it now.
Well, you know what? It's just a matter of getting used to, and then
It really is.
the whole key is really matching. You know, if you have limited time and you know how to make something really quickly, that might be the way to go. But if you have more time and you need to make the pattern, fine. But
Yes.
this is really, these can be lightweight orthoses that fit under gloves or fit under, you know, clothing much a little bit more comfortable, or they're
Yes.
lighter weight, or they're breathable for you guys in Florida
Yes.
because they allow ventilation. But the quickest way to make a thumb orthosis that is actually really comfortable is to take a piece of our 6-inch wide and just make it into a perfect square. And the way to make a perfect square is just to fold it. So you have a 6-inch by 6-inch square. And we're going to cut one little corner off. And that corner matches our IP joint.
Ah.
And then we're going to cut into the corner, leaving about 3 to 4 inches, and that matches the web space.
Okay, perfect.
And then these two corners will get pinched together. These two corners will get pinched together, and we make a seam along the radial border. And that's basically how we're going to make this orthosis. We'll pinch the ulnar sides together quickly just to capture the shape of the thenar muscles. And so that is the pattern. Everybody can see that. And I'm just going to heat up my material in my little splint pan right here. It's very handy.
It heats up so fast.
Yes. The Orfit cast, yeah, because it's threads of material, it has a quick activation time, but once again, you have a limited working time as well. So there's always a trade-off. So it's always a good idea to know what you're going to do with the material before you actually heat it up and do it. And that's why I always explain dry, where I'm going to make my pinch marks or what I'm going to do with the material. The thicker version actually absorbs a lot of water. So you want to make sure that you pat it dry, but you don't remove all of the water because that would actually remove all of the heat as well. So we want the product to be fairly warm. That's how we get it to work. So it fits in the web space, and then we're going to pinch this corner together up by the IP joint, and we'll pinch this corner together down past the wrist, and we'll just make a nice seam, pinching very securely as close as possible to the skin. And then you just pull these two tabs over by the fifth metacarpal, by the distal palmar crease. And then you can put the patient in that comfortable position. I usually give them something to pinch. And then once this is pinched fairly good, fairly strong together, and this is tacked together, you don't want this to stay, so we just tack it together. If it's still warm, you can pull the material away and cut as close as possible, and you come away with a seam that is completely sealed and flat.
Yeah. I really love that aspect of the Orfit cast material.
Yeah, so it really, really secures, and then we'll just let that harden. If you have any wrinkles in here, you want to move them towards the distal palmar crease because then they even out. You don't want any wrinkles in there, especially if you're trying to increase the first web space. And then we'll just go back and open that ulnar side so it doesn't stay. Otherwise, you have to cut it, and we don't want to do that. So this material has no coating. So everywhere you pinch, it's going to stay pinched unless you physically open it up. So that's the orthosis, and I want to show you how we're going to attach straps. This was the biggest issue with our Orfit cast material because of it stays wet for so long. And so people were always asking how to get straps to stay on. So I'm going to share with you the secret. So here's my orthosis. It just requires a little bit of trimming on the ulnar side. So we cut off that ulnar portion. I like to trim the very, very distal edge because it gets a little rough. And I like to trim the border on the bottom, that little triangle gets cut off because that's what crossed the wrist. So you'll see in a minute that I've eliminated that. And then I just cut below the IP joint.
This is all while it's still warm.
It's still wet. It's not warm anymore.
Not warm anymore.
It's still
just wet.
It's just
but
wet.
It's firm enough.
It's definitely firm enough. It's really going to lock me in here. Okay, so the big thing is how to get this Velcro to stick, because my fingers are wet, the material's wet, and you're never going to get the hook, which has got glue on the back, to stick. So what we're going to do is take a scrap of the 1 inch and our heat gun. Okay.
Gotta have the heat gun.
The heat gun is the key here. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my loop. I'm going to heat up a piece of the Orfit cast. Just heat it up.
She's got fingertips like a seasoned chef, because
well, if you wanted to be a little bit more careful, you could do this.
Well, the fact that you feel the heat and can work with it, it's like
you know what? Yeah. I'm just wrapping. Actually, this is a very cool trick. You wrap Orfit cast around both sides of your loop, and I know students tend to think that you can heat up the loop, but you will burn the loop if you heat it up directly. But if you heat up the Orfit cast, you won't. So we'll heat up the Orfit cast and heat up. So the trick is that Orfit cast, even if it's wet, when it's dry heated, it sticks to other Orfit cast that has been dry heated. And so I attach my loop just like that. And then on the back side, I'm going to take another piece of that scrap, heat up the glue, and heat up the Orfit cast, and stick
them together.
Stick them together. So now instead of glue, I'm just going to heat up the Orfit cast. It's an interface.
Yeah.
So we'll heat up the splint. We'll heat up.
And because it heats up, Orfit cast heats up so fast, it gets really tacky very fast.
Exactly.
And
now notice
no other splint material.
Yeah, notice that I left a little bit of a border. So I'm just going to heat up the border and fold it over.
Yeah, cool.
And so it looks neat. My hook is really firmly attached. I can trim this away because I don't need extra. And so now I have a really nice fitting orthosis for the CMC joint. It's still a little damp, but I can send my patient home.
Yeah.
You know, before people were saying, what do? We have to wait until the splint is completely dry before we put the straps on it. And so then we can send the patient home. I'm like, no, you can. It's a little wet. It will dry over time, especially in your heat in Miami.
The humidity will suck it like that.
Yeah, so that, and it's a really nice way to make a CMC orthosis for a variety of different thumb conditions based on what is going on with your patient. It fits really well under gloves. It comes in black and orange for those.
I'm excited about the orange color.
Yeah. The orange is a nice variation. So yeah, so I just wanted to share that with all your viewers. Quick and easy way to make an orthosis. I can actually see, I don't know if you guys can see, but I can see light coming through it, which means it's ventilated.
Yeah, yeah, it's light. It's a very light material. I really like the aspects of how it sticks really well. I've been building my my radial nerve palsy splints with them.
Oh, okay, great.
It's been so it was funny because it's splint material. It's somebody was telling me that they didn't like Orfit because it's something about like if it sticks too much. Sometimes you need materials that stick too much, or because this happened to my staff too. It's like when you're working with the material and you're new, and that's who my program's for, right? Like everyone looks at you and you're like, this is so easy.
Well, number one, Orfit makes a lot of different materials.
They do.
I would always recommend using our coated materials. Don't start with the non-coated.
Right.
So the non-coated materials are going to be very sticky. The ones that have a coating have an NS in the name, and therefore they are a little bit easier to work with, but bigger pieces of material and holding material with one hand will cause all sorts of
Sorts of problems.
mishaps.
That's why you have to have tricks to, so I normally with my Orthosis 101, it is definitely a beginner course. It is an opportunity for people to not only
Experiment.
style, but experience different material. And I do include Orfit colors and the NS one, which is a non-stick one.
Right.
It's a very forgiving material. And so that they can one day become Splinting Guru like you, Debbie, where they're making these custom. I mean, did you guys time her? Because, and you know, not everyone can make them as fast as you.
Well, you don't necessarily need to make them that fast, but you have to feel
Right.
comfortable with the materials. So,
Yes.
you know, if you're a new therapist and you're in a clinic, I recommend, you know, grabbing the scraps. There's always going to be every therapist in a clinic
So
has a
many.
box of a scrap. So just practice working with the different materials so that you get a feel of what has rigidity, what has high resistance to stretch, what is highly conforming, what is sticky. And when I teach students at Touro University in Manhattan, and when we work with the material, we cut out the pattern, but then we heat up what we cut away.
Yes.
And we practice manipulating that. We see how much stretch it has, how much play it has, before they actually work with the material for the actual orthosis. I make them work with the scraps so they can tell how much they're going to have to handle it. And I think that is really important. I think the more you practice, the more you touch the material and play with it, you get a feel for how much it will stretch.
Yeah. One of the things I do is I teach my students to, like, when they're not used to it at all, to just hold the material, dip one end of it, and just practice cutting.
Oh yeah, definitely cutting out shapes, cutting out circles. We cut out hearts, we cut out diamonds.
I mean, but really just the act of cutting through the material, like how it feels, how you're not supposed to leave like those little snags in them. I mean, really, it's a practice, just like anything else. Like when you first come out of OT school, you learn the foundation only, and then you learn, no matter if you're in a skilled nursing facility, a hand therapy facility, you're working with peds, whatever it is, you develop those skills, and it does take time, it does take practice, and then one day you'll be as fast as Debbie. Working
And I also recommend asking for samples. So I do send out samples. I have samples of Orficast and Orficast more to send out. So if you write to me an email, I can do it. I can send you some samples, and I think other distributors will send out samples and then play with them.
Yeah,
Also, I had plenty of practice making orthoses for my kids. We had broken wrists, broken PIP joint, we had a lot of fractures going on. All sorts, metacarpal fractures, proximal phalanx fractures.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff. So
I'll be including in Orthosis 101. I'll be running a special on it next week, and so I'll be including some of those samples in there.
Great, great.
So awesome. Thank you so much, Debbie, for...
Oh, sure. I'm happy to...
Thank you for
inspiring
this, so that they can see that it is possible for them to get into hand therapy and for them to develop their skills. And I think that there's someone else in my show that did what you did, which was like you wanted something and you created that position for you because you had the guts to really ask for something that wasn't there.
But I do want to point out, you have to have experience too.
You do.
I have, excuse me, I have taught this course, and I've had some of the students in my course, my workshops, come up and say, I want to do what you do. And I'm like, you need to have that clinical background first.
Yes, you have to develop your skills and grow your confidence, which you did. And there was another show with someone who, you know, Amy, who was talking about how she started to specialize as a certified hand therapist in T-care. And I think that what you do is you inspire people to think that it's possible for them, really, so that one day, because everyone who watches the show, they're in different journeys in their occupational therapy career, physical therapy career that devoted to specialize in hand therapy. And I think, Debbie, is you inspire people to say, like, I can do that when I develop my skills, when I do all this stuff, that I too can be bold and do the kind of work that gives you fulfillment, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You should always look at, you should always look at your job not as just the work, but something you love to do. If you have a passion for it, it's not hard to do it.
Yeah, it's not hard to do it all. So not only do you inspire people, Debbie, but you gave them some real tips right away to use.
I hope so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And anybody contact me. Wong will provide the contact information, and we love pictures of splint. So if you've created a really cool orthosis and you want to share it with us, please send it.
I'm gonna send you my picture.
Okay, great.
Of my dynamic orthoses.
Okay, awesome. We like to post.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.